Hello everybody, I'm Miss Lisa, and welcome back to our kids art classes, our virtual kids art classes. Today it's Kids Day. Normally we have Kids Day shows, Kids Day videos on the last Saturday of every month, but this month, because we're premiering a Dias de los Muertos video on the last Saturday, which is the 31st, we're doing our Kids Day on Friday, October 30th. And today we're going to be doing a Dias de los Muertos themed art project. We are going to be going to Mexico. Let's get out our map. Here's Mexico. Now let's just take a minute to talk about where we've been so far in this series. When the pandemic started, we thought, that's sad because no more Kids Day at the Mac. But we're going to go virtual, and as long as we're doing something different, let's add a round the world theme so we can look at art and cultures from around the world. After all, we are a multicultural arts center. So we started out in Mexico in April. We did tissue paper flowers, and then we virtually visited Japan where we learned some origami. And then we went to India in June to look at mehndi hands and to think about how to make some of those patterns. Then we went in July to the islands of Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, and Hawaii, where we learned about tablecloth. That was a really fun one with the tablecloth. And then we stayed in the USA in August and we learned about some weaving, which is very prevalent in Native American culture. And you might want to check out some of the videos that we have in our on our YouTube channel, where Native American basket weaver Cecilia Moreno is demonstrating some basketry, some weaving techniques from her culture. And then in September, we went to Vietnam, where we looked at how to make some really cool Tet Tung Tu lanterns. And then in October, which is this month, we are going to be learning how to draw a Calavera, which is the skull. And it's decorated with flowers, usually flowers and bright colors and patterns. And you will find these Calaveras in the season of Dias de los Muertos, and probably also at other times of the year now in Mexico. So this is what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to do this in crayon. And I also brought this to show you. This is a Dias de los Muertos skull. This is a Calavera from Mexico. This was given to my daughter by one of her really good friends who had gone to Mexico. The friend has relatives in Mexico and had gone to visit relatives and brought this back for my daughter. So there you can see the beautiful patterns and colors. This one is made of clay. We're going to be drawing ours on black paper like this. So let's take a look at what is in your Kids Day packet this month. We have got two very nice pieces of construction paper, black construction paper. This is a very good quality black construction paper. And you have some crayons. These are called triangular crayons. They're super cool because they don't roll, as opposed to my chalk, which does. So you have, see what I mean? You have these crayons that are not going to roll off your table. And you have different colors here. Everybody has a white. The white is the most important one of today. And then you'll have a piece of chalk. So 3 things in your kit. You've got your black paper, your triangular crayons, and a piece of white chalk. And I'm going to put this back in this kit so we can give it away tomorrow, along with the other 35 kits that we're giving away. And I brought along for this demonstration a couple sheets of black construction paper and my own crayons and my white chalk, just so I don't have to use the ones in that kit, and we can actually give that kit away with the others. Okay, so how are we going to start this? Whenever I start drawing anything, I think about the major shapes before we get into any detail. And what I see here is a circle and a shape down here which is almost like a rectangle. And that leaves this shape here, which is a triangle. We have this crescent shape. We have a triangle shape that's almost like an upside down heart. We have two smaller circles. And we have some rectangles down here. The rectangles just represent the neck bones. Okay? Those are vertebrae, but they're kind of difficult to draw, so we're just going to symbolize them with rectangles. Then we have all of the decorations, and I'll show you how to do that. Now we're going to be working on black paper, and that's why we have the white chalk, because as you can imagine, it is not very easy to sketch on black paper with a black pencil and then be able to color in what you've done. So we're using the white chalk, and we're going to start with the circle. Here's the big circle. We're going to start with the big circle. And if you've had me for an art teacher before, you'll know that when I draw something, I don't draw it painstakingly slow and carefully. I go around and around and around a couple times until I'm happy with that shape. And then I'll do another shape and maybe additional shapes. And then after I do those big shapes, I might go back and refine the lines a bit. So I'm going to start with the circle, and you can do the same. So I'm not pressing down on my chalk. I'm just going lightly, and I'm going to go around and around and around. And if I was doing this with a pencil, I would do the same thing. I'll just go around and around and around. So I've gone around a couple times. This bit of chalk is a little bit of, there we go. If you use the very flat end, this was a complete piece of chalk and I broke it in half. So use the broken end of your chalk, because that one, the chalk is less compressed at the ends and you'll be able to draw with it a little bit easier. So I'm using the broken end, not the very flat end that came with the full stick of chalk. And this broken end is actually softer, and the chalk comes back onto your paper much easier. So I've got this circle shape now, and I'm going to do a rectangle shape, and I want my rectangle shape to overlap the circle like this. I'm just drawing very lightly. And then I'm going to add a little triangle shape here. It's a very flat triangle, not a big pointy one, just a very flat triangle. And that kind of makes the chin shape. Okay, you can see the mouth, the chin shape, and the circle. Now I'm going to take this part of the circle where it's overlapping with the rectangle, and I'm going to make a crescent shape here that is going to represent the mouth. You see how that happens? Just using this bit of the circle as the top of the mouth, and then I'm making a curved line. So I've got this crescent shape now, and I'm going to maybe add space for some teeth. I'm actually going to take the edges down a little bit like this. And I can just rub some of those lines out. And then I'm going to think about where to put the eye sockets. The eye sockets in the skull are you can feel the bone around here. Don't press too hard, but you'll see that the bone in your skull is actually there's a hole here and a hole here, and that's where your eyeball sits. So we're going to put those eye sockets in your drawing here. And the eyes on a person are usually halfway down the head. So I'm going to make a horizontal line here so that this distance here is about the same as this distance. And I'm also going to draw a very light line vertically. And I do this whenever I draw a human face from the front as well, just so that the eyes end up in the right place. And then I'm going to put the eye sockets. They're a little bit bigger than the eyeball because your eyelid covers part of the eyeball. So let's make some eye sockets that are circles. And then for the nose, there's a bit in your skull where your nose will come out, and there's a hole there. The nose is actually quite fleshy, and the bone, we can put a triangle here to represent where the nose is. We can even make it, sometimes it looks a little bit like an upside down heart shape, so I can kind of add that in. And then down here where the neck would be, I'm going to add some rectangles. And if I extended this vertical line down, it will help me place the rectangles halfway. So you want the rectangle to be halfway, half of it on this side of the line and half of it on the other side. That'll get your neck in the middle of your drawing. Okay, so now we have a very roughly sketched skull and neck bones. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my white crayon and I'm going to go around the outside of the shape. Remember, we took a little bit of this part away. So white crayon. And when you do the crayon work, you'll want to press down a little bit harder than you normally might. And if your crayon breaks, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. It happens. One way to make it less likely to break the crayon is if you hold it nearer the tip. If you hold it up here and press down, you might find that your crayon breaks a little bit easier because you're not protecting the end of the crayon there. So I'm using my crayon fairly close to the tip and working around the outline of my skull. So when I get to the part where the rectangle and the circle overlap, I'm just going around the outside. So there's a bit of triangle, a bit of diagonal line there, and then I'm working on the circle part. Okay, so there's the outline of the skull shape. I'm going to outline these neck bones as well. And then I'm going to outline the shape of the nose. And my eye sockets. So even though we've got black paper, we can still do a great job of drawing on it because we have white chalk and we have white crayon, both of which will show up nicely. Now you have 2 pieces of black paper in your kit because I thought maybe you might want to do 2 of them. They're a lot of fun. And now that you know you can make a great drawing on black paper, go ahead and try twice. So now we have the eye sockets, the nose place, we've got the outline of the skull, and we're going to put the mouth. The mouth is made, this piece down here is the lower jaw, and it has a hinge here so you can open and close your mouth, right? But we're just going to simplify our skull in this way. And then I want to put some teeth in here. Now what I want to do is draw the teeth individually within these rectangles and leave just a little bit of black paper showing in between, and then they'll look like individual teeth. So if I do one like this, I'll want to leave a little bit of paper showing and do one like this. And I'm just basically going in between the chalk lines that I drew for the teeth. I hope you can see them from the camera there. I'm going to draw it a little bit darker so that you can see them, because they kind of rubbed off when I put my hand over them. So these were the chalk lines that I made originally, and when I'm making the teeth, I'm just going in between those chalk lines like this. And I'm leaving the, I'm not going over the chalk in between the teeth. And I'll show you what's going to happen. Okay, so now I can take my finger and just gently rub away that chalk line. And you can see that the paper shows through, and it looks more like individual teeth now. And you can also go over that space in between with a black crayon. Some of the kits have black crayons. Some of them have very dark purpley blue crayons. You can use any dark color in between the teeth, because if it's a very dark purple or a black, it's going to look pretty much the same when you put it on black paper. This one here, I used dark purple in these areas between the petals, and it looks like black, doesn't it? Okay, now we're going to decorate this. And we're going to start by putting some flowers in the middle of the eye sockets. So I'm going to put the middle of the flower. And I'm actually going to color this flower center white. And the reason I'm doing that is because the yellow is going to show up much brighter on the paper if I color white underneath it. If I put yellow crayon directly on black paper, it'll be hard to see. And I am pressing down pretty hard, and it's making all these little bits of wax from the crayon, and I'll dust those off when I'm finished. So now if I make the petals, I'm going to make these into marigolds, so I think I'll use orange and yellow in the flower. If I used orange and yellow directly on black paper, just like the center of the flower, it's not going to show up very well. So I'm putting down white crayon first. White is a very versatile color. It's one that you may not use often when you look at your color crayon sets, but it actually has some very good uses. Okay, so I do something like that first, and then I go over that white with orange. The orange is going to be much brighter than if I put black crayon, if I put the orange crayon directly onto the black paper. I discovered this quite by accident. I was like, putting white, it doesn't seem like it would work, putting white down first and then a color, because you never think of white as being that useful of a color, but with color crayons on black, it's incredibly useful. I was just experimenting, trying to figure out, so I usually do this class with oil pastels on black paper because the pastels will cover the black paper much better than crayon, and you get some really nice bright colors. And I was trying to figure out how to duplicate that with crayons because I wanted to put crayons in the art kits. And this is the way to do it. You put your white down first and then go over that white with the color you want to use. So much of art you figure out by experimentation, and I think that's a very incredibly fun part of art too. Some of you know I used to be a scientist before I was an artist, so I've got that science part of me that always wants to do experiments. All of my art turns into an experiment in one way or another. Okay, so now I have these beautiful flowers in the eye sockets, and I think I'll put some, like this one, some dots under the eyes. These calaveras are always beautifully decorated with all sorts of patterns and flowers and vines and beautiful lines. Let me show you how to make a line that's curvy and yet symmetrical. So if I'm thinking of a curved line that maybe starts near the center of the flower and it goes out towards the side of the skull, and then it comes back in and does a spiral. Then on the other side, I want to start, I'm thinking about how I did this. I started close to the middle of the circle, and then I went out to the side of the skull, and then I came in and I made a spiral. So if you say to yourself, I started near the center of the flower, went out to the side of the skull, came around and made a spiral, you can usually get something that looks pretty symmetrical. Something that's similar to what you just drew, going the opposite direction. Okay, so I'm going to put maybe a circle there and a couple leaves. And maybe let's put a big flower right in the center here. And this flower might have some petals that overlap a bit. And maybe I'll make another one. I think like this one, I'm going to put some smaller flowers down here along the chin. And I'm doing all this in my white crayon. I think I'll make a beautiful curvy line that starts at the side, goes towards the tooth, and comes back and out. And then maybe I'll continue that into a spiral. And maybe I'll do a couple more dots along here. And maybe, how about one flower right in the center? All right, so now I've got my skull nicely decorated with patterns, and I'm going to start adding color. So remember that if you put white down first and then put your color of choice over it, it's going to show up better than if you just put that color directly on the black paper. So I'm also going to do some, I'm going to put some blue-green along here. See how bright that is by putting the white down first? And I think I'll make the leaves a nice bright yellow green. Actually, I'm going to make them green. And I'm going to go over this spiral here, or this shape, with green. And I'm going to make, let's see, make this flower purple. And even though purple is a nice dark color, I'm still putting the white under it so that it's a nice bright purple. And I'm actually on this leaving a little bit of white around the edge of the flower so that the difference between the purple and the black is emphasized by the white there, and it sort of brings out the color a little bit stronger even though it's on a dark black background. And I'm just going to bring some of the purple over here. And we've already got white on the paper, so I'm just going over that line with the purple. I'll color in these dots with white, and I think I will make them, I'll try yellow green here. I think I want something red out here. And let's make these flowers red. Let's make a purple one in the center. And I'll make this one orange. So you can see how that white underneath really makes the color come up brightly. So I'm just going to work on this big flower now. And again, let me just add one more petal there for balance. I'm going to color these. I'll put the center in yellow. And I'm going to make the petals, I think I'll do them red. So again, I'm going to start coloring some of this black with the white crayon first. And I'm going to leave just a little bit of white showing at the edges. Just working layer by layer from the inside to the outside, so I don't lose my place and make the whole thing entirely red. If you work it this way, then you remember where the petals are, and it ends up looking more like individual petals than like a big red blob. And I am pressing down pretty hard, as you can see. It's a fairly good pressure I'm putting on these crayons, and that's partly why the color looks so bright, and it's also why I'm making all these little bits of wax that I'm going to have to dust off when I'm finished. Okay, so now I'm just going to finish it off by using the white crayon, and I'm going to be coloring in the bits where the skull bones would be, which would be these areas here. And you want to leave the nose black because that would be a hole in the skull. Here it's just made with a little bit of a hole in the clay. And then you want to leave the black around the petals of the marigolds or whatever other flowers you might have in the eye sockets. So you can see I'm going to leave the paper black around here. I'm going to leave the area between the teeth black, and I'm going to color the vertebrae or the neck bones white. Okay, so all of that with the white crayon. And I'm going to leave a little bit, I think I'll leave a little bit of black in that spiral shape too, because that kind of adds to the design, almost like a bit of black crayon is added in that place. And again, around these circles, I'll leave some of it black. The triangle crayons, you also won't have the crayons rolling onto your drawing. I really love letting some of the black of the paper show through. It has a really cool effect. And then to finish it off, we're just going to take a tissue and gently wipe all of these bits of wax off the surface that are sticking in areas that you don't want. And you'll also take off the any chalk lines of the tissue as well. Okay, so I'm just finishing dusting off all of these little bits of extra wax, and here we have our completed Calavera. It looks very very bright and cheerful. And here we have 2 of them. You've got 2 pieces of paper. You're more than welcome to try this twice. Make one for yourself and one for your friends and family. It's a lot of fun. Remember, I think if there's anything I want you to remember from this class, it's that if you want to work on black paper, it's very easy to do if you have something white to draw with, right? So you can use white chalk, you can color with the white crayons, and the most exciting thing about the white crayons is that they will make your other colors brighter. And I just want to show you really quickly. Don't take my word for it. You can do this experiment yourself. But if I take my yellow crayon and I work directly on the black paper, it doesn't come up very brightly. It's kind of hard to see. If I take my pink crayon and work directly on the black paper, it doesn't come up very brightly. What is this? The green yellow. Okay, so these colors, the lighter colors, are hard to see. But if we put down white first, and then we go with the green yellow, and the yellow, and the pink, you'll be able to see them much better. And if we go with a darker color, something that normally would show up well on white paper, let's go with blue. Okay, that's not going to show up very well on black, right? Because it's dark like blue. But again, if we put down white first and then go over it with the blue, you'll see how nicely the white really makes the true color of the crayon show up, because there's much, it allows the color to show through. So use that white crayon. It's a lot of fun with white, and I hope you enjoyed learning about the shapes that you can use to make the Calavera, all shapes that you know how to draw already. Your circle, a rectangle, will angle the sides a little bit, upside down triangle. The top of the mouth is actually the circle edge, and then you can make this curved line down here, horizontal line, vertical lines to give you the space to color in the teeth. I'll help you make the shapes of the teeth. If you leave the paper black, it emphasizes the different teeth. If you want to go back and add a little bit of black crayon over the white after you try to rub it out, you can do that, or you can use a dark color like purple, and that will be fine too. Great, so I hope you enjoyed that. Next month we are going to be going somewhere else. We've already visited a number of countries, more to come in the following months. So tune in at the end of November and let's see where we end up. Thanks very much. Keep doing art. Stay safe. Goodbye.